You guys, I cannot believe that I'm finally saying this, but welcome to Speak Out. My name is Christine Yeargin, and I have the privilege of being your host. I've thought a lot about my vision for this show, and I want it to be informative, of course, but ultimately, I want it to encourage you to speak out. See what I did there? We're going to cover a lot of things as they relate to the pro-life movement, and I'm going to highlight some amazing, amazing voices who are bold enough to stand for life, despite being in a career or industry that maybe tells them not to. It's time we combat the bogus, ridiculous idea that being pro-choice is cool or trendy when we all know it's not. What's cool is standing for life. What's cool is defending the defenseless. What's cool is supporting mothers. And what's cool is using your voice for those who don't have one. We're going to have a great time on this show, and I'm so excited for you to be here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I figured it would be a great time to use this first episode to share my own story because I always get a lot of questions about it on social media. I figured what better place to dive into it than my own show. It is, after all, the main reason I'm so passionate about this issue. So let's start from the beginning. I was raised in a Christian household, and we never went in depth on the abortion issue, but I always knew it was wrong. In fact, I knew if it weren't for my mom rejecting abortion when she was pregnant with me, unplanned, I wouldn't be here. So fast forward a little, I was 20 years old and a student. Remember I said I was raised in a Christian household? Yeah, well, I wasn't exactly walking with Jesus at this point. I was living for myself. I was partying. I was looking for affirmation in all of the wrong places, which ultimately landed me at my local Walgreens. Why Walgreens, you ask? Well, Walgreens has Plan B. Something else I was never really taught about. I knew nothing about Plan B beyond the fact that women sometimes took it when they were trying to prevent a pregnancy. There were 2 pills in the box, and I just remember thinking, what am I doing? What are these pills? Are they abortion pills? If I'm pregnant, will my baby have a deformity now? After taking the first pill, I felt so uneasy that I threw the second pill out of the window of my car. And because I was so unsure of what I had just taken, I ended up calling the 800 number on the back of the Plan B box. And the woman on the other end of the line at the time told me that if I was not pregnant, Plan B would prevent the egg and sperm from meeting, so I wouldn't get pregnant. She told me if I was pregnant, that Plan B would do nothing and I would remain pregnant. Now, I want to dive into the Plan B topic for another episode to debunk the partially false information like this, but at the time, I had no idea it was false. I just knew that I didn't really feel 100% confident in the answer that she gave me. So I threw the pills out of the window of my car, like I said, and then I drove off. Over the next couple of weeks, I kind of just forgot about the whole thing. I know that sounds weird, but I didn't think I was pregnant to begin with, and Plan B is just precautionary, right? So I moved on. And at the time all of this was happening, I was a nanny. I woke up early for work, and even on the weekends, because my internal alarm clock wouldn't let me sleep in anymore, well, eventually I started sleeping in, and my mom, who knows everything, took note of it because mothers are ridiculously observant, aren't they? Somehow she equated me sleeping in to me needing to take a pregnancy test. She showed up at my apartment with multiple pregnancy tests in her hand, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I'm sure it was something along the lines of respectfully telling her, "Mom, you have lost your mind." But you can probably guess what happens next. We saw 2 faint pink lines on a pregnancy test. And somehow I wasn't convinced, so I took 2 more. And the pregnancy test, I thought, could be wrong. Well, I said, "Mom, do you think maybe that these 3 pregnancy tests that now have 2 faint pink lines on it could be wrong?" And she told me that false positives were incredibly rare, and after 3 tests, she was pretty confident that I actually was pregnant. Now, I don't remember crying at that point, but that's not to say it didn't happen. I do, however, remember my mom crying. I'm sure it was a combination of disappointment in my actions combined with the fact that She knew what it was like to be a young mom in an unplanned pregnancy. She ended up leaving my apartment to go home for the evening, and later that night I watched The OC. And I'm totally dating myself with this show, but there was a scene on the show where a group of friends was having a bonfire on the beach. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to be able to have fun with my friends again. I've ruined my chances of having a social life. That was it. I'm done. My life is over. That's when I cried. I didn't want to have an abortion, but I also didn't want to give up my friends or social life either. That's kind of what was going through my head at the time. And I ended up having a couple of weeks to process finding out that I was pregnant on my own. And because the father of the baby was out of town, and this wasn't exactly a phone call kind of conversation, I had the time to go over it in my head, play out different scenarios and just kind of process it. But when he got back, I told him that we needed to talk, and we did. He told me that a baby was not an option that he was willing to consider. He asked me to have an abortion, and I told him that an abortion was not an option that I was willing to consider. I knew he had just found out and needed time to process everything like I did, so I left and gave him some time. And one of the next times we talked, at the advice of his financial advisor, he offered me $50,000 to abort the baby. I was shocked. I was mad. I was hurt. I was confused how anyone could offer money for something like that. I immediately felt more protective of the little baby growing inside of me. And I remember responding to the offer of a $50,000 bribe by saying, "These are my morals and values we're talking about here. You can take your money and shove it up your ass." We didn't talk for quite some time after that. And I remember being pregnant and scared. I was rubbing my belly at night, crying myself to sleep, saying, "Even if your dad never comes around, I'm gonna love you enough for the both of us." And a little later on February 24th, 2008, I was blessed with a little boy I named Noah. Any amount of fear or uncertainty that I had faded away and was replaced with pure joy and unconditional love. Becoming a mother was the single best thing that has ever happened to me. I was forced to grow up during that time, and I genuinely believe my son saved me. I don't know where I would be or what path I would have gone down had I not continued with my pregnancy. I certainly wasn't on a good path. I don't like to share all of my past without also sharing the present and bringing it back for a full circle moment. I never knew how things would turn out. That was part of the fear that I was experiencing, but my son's father is 100% involved in his life, and we have a fantastic co-parenting relationship. And I truly attribute it all to God, because he can take any situation and turn it for good. So that's a little bit of my story. It was a very emotional time in my life, which led me to where I am today. I care so much about women who are walking in the same shoes that I was in. Experiencing that unplanned pregnancy I was in is why I want to walk alongside other women to be a support and a resource. It's taken me a while to get where I am today and publicly standing for life, because I dragged my feet for years. I'm not sure if you know, but the abortion debate has been dubbed a controversial one. Go figure. I always say fighting for life isn't controversial, but fighting to end the life of sweet, precious babies sure as heck is. I was scared to lose friends, so I stayed silent. It was okay for other people to have opinions, but I didn't want to share my opinion for the sake of keeping the peace. But where's the fun in that? No, but really, it can be intimidating knowing that you're speaking out on things that other people view as controversial. It can be scary knowing that you have friends on the other side of the aisle and they may not accept you for your beliefs. At this point, I'm sure we've all experienced something like that, to be honest. It's my ultimate hope and goal that this show teaches you and encourages you to speak out. Thank you so much for tuning in to my very first episode, listening to my story. I hope I answered some of the questions you guys have sent in. Shoot me a DM, let me know what you think, but only after you give me a 5-star rating wherever it is that you're listening to a podcast, or a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching there. We will drop episode 2 in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait for you guys to see what's in store. Thanks for tuning in.